What a kind, generous welcome. No. I am incredibly honored and humbled to be in India today. I hope that we can have a good discussion around the ideas, and I want to thank Esther. My wife is a psychologist and often takes people on guided journeys. That was wonderful. And one of the signals I love, and I've done this before, there was a great movie called Beautiful Mind. Has anyone seen Beautiful Mind? Great movie. They show respect by giving their pen. Thank you. Beautiful. Get ready over the next 30 minutes to go on a very rapid journey. My mentor, how many have seen C.K. Prahalad? He was my mentor and a person who guided me in my journey, and he always told me, when in doubt, go with content. So over the next 30 minutes, you're going to get a lot of content, and get ready. But my content is around a very, very simple message. How do we begin to create value? How do we create value for the next generation? How do we go about creating value? It's not what we do, it's what somebody gets because of what we do. These notes will be available from People Matter, so you can get copies if you want. But my job is to recognize that the value you get is not what you do, it's what somebody else gets because of what you do. And I want to focus on your challenge. Esther laid it out. You've all got in your mind a challenge. How do I help you look at your assumptions? The words Esther used, how do you look at some of the limitations that allow you to create value for the things that you're working on? That's where we're going. I've got 4 things I want to talk about, but let me just be really clear. Get in your mind, what's the challenge Esther encouraged you to look at? How do I rethink that? How do I manage it? How do I create value from that challenge? And my job is to help you do that. Number 1, Esther used the words as well, now is the time. How many have been in human resources over 30 years? 20 years? 20 years? 25? Stand up if you've been in HR over 25 years. We need to recognize you. Stand if you can. Woo-hoo! So for those standing, is there more or less attention to HR today? You're the expert, you have 25, say more. Yes! We have never seen more attention in my world to HR than we see it today. Let's stipulate that, talk about it, and you had sessions on it yesterday with ESG, with the New World, and then I'm going to suggest 3 actions that you take in order to manage that challenge better. I found this fascinating, and some of you may remember American Magazine Global Fast Company in 2005 did an article, Why I Hate HR. Does anyone remember that? I remember it well because I was interviewed by a global television show with Steve Hammonds, the author, and they said, Professor Ulrich, what do you think? And I said, I like HR. And they said, Mr. Hammonds, what do you think? He said, I hate HR. I like HR, I hate HR. It was 30 seconds. And my wife, the psychologist, said, you did a terrible job. Today, look at what Fast Company is publishing. We in HR are the hottest career around. How many here are not in HR? Anybody not in HR? You will be soon. You came to this conference so that you can make a career progression. So why is that true? Let me suggest the rationale for that is very simple. The environment we live in is changing. You talked about ESG yesterday. You talked about the environment. It changes our assumptions, the limiting biases we've got, and it changes in blue what we do. So I'll go quickly. The environment is changing. You know this in India. You know it around the world. We see economic conditions, changing economic conditions. We see mental health, toxicity. Context is the kingdom. Content is the king or the queen. In that world, the human resource issues become absolutely critical. And you can look at those. You know those. They change our assumptions. Esther talked about limiting beliefs. We have assumptions about our world that have to change. We have assumptions that have to change. Let me suggest 4, and you've probably got some of your limiting beliefs as well. 1 is connecting the inside and the outside. When you thought of your challenge, was it something inside the company or outside the company? And the answer is both. The assumption that limits us is we have boundaries that are boundaryless. Hybrid work is a hot topic. I think it doesn't matter where you work, as long as your work is creating value for someone else. Are we managing through technology to create that value? Or are we changing the assumption that the context drives outside in behavior, inside, and inside behavior? Again, I'm going to mention CK a few times. He's the one that gave me such hope for the future. Our internal core competence drives our outcomes. Are you thinking about your challenge inside out and outside in? Second assumption, uncertainty. Oh, we hate uncertainty. We do strategic planning. Who has a child between 15 and 20? Sir, what's your child's name? Roshni? Roshni. I am not good with English names, and I'm worse with Indian names. Roshni. How old is Roshni? 20. Do you know what Roshni is going to ultimately do for his long-term career? No. You don't see the face. The face is going, no. Do you know who he's not married yet? No, he's not married. Do you know who he's going to marry? Do you know how many children he's going to have? Do you know where he's going to live? Do you know anything about your son? We live in a world of uncertainty. Now let me ask another question. What do you know for sure about how you feel about Roshni? Will you love him? By the way, you didn't see the face change. In this world of uncertainty, you can have a seat. I don't know what Roshni will study. I don't know who he'll marry. I don't know where he'll live. I don't know his lifestyle. But I know I will love him. I know someone with a 16-year-old son who plays tennis. I don't know what he's going to do, but I will love that boy. Find certainty in uncertainty. Let me say that again. Find certainty in uncertainty. Don't chase the uncertainty. I'm going to try to solve Roshni's problems. Find certainty. What does that mean? At a personal level, what am I certain about? For those you work with as leaders, what are they certain about? At an organizational level, what are we certain about? We can't fix the uncertainty, but we can be certain. I think that's an assumption. I don't know what's going to happen to your challenge. Neither do you. But what are you certain about as you try to deal with it? Third assumption, paradox. Paradox. Two things that don't go together. Long-term. Oh, I love in this field of HR, we say from to. From operational to strategic. In fact, I've got 13 paradoxes listed. Pick a number. Just pick a number. 1 to 10. 4. Pick number 4. Work focus. Do we focus inside out or outside in? It's an interesting question. You pick 3. Do we work independently or do we work collectively? What's the answer to every question? Yes. We love in this field to go from to. Every time you see a from to, it's a limiting assumption. In order to go forward, it's always an and also. And we don't manage the paradox. We navigate it. How do I love the yin and the yang, the tension that comes from that disagreement? That's an assumption. And finally, number 4, personalized. Personalized. I think during COVID, we recognized that almost everybody deal with COVID in their own way. We have 3 children. I'll be personal. 1, our daughter quit her job to homeschool her children. That's interesting. Second child, our son went to work every day. His wife stayed home and worked with their children. Third, they had joint child parenting duties. They both worked part-time. Everyone finds their own way. I think the next move in employee experience is personalizing the experience on 2 dimensions. You care about the people. I care about you. I care that you succeed. I care that you're successful. We need to let our employees feel that. And we personalize. We build a work setting that works for them. How many of you tend to like to be at work with other people? How many tend to like to be at work by yourself or work at home? Nobody. That's why you're at the conference, because you want to be with other people. The answer is, whatever works for you, we will make happen. We will personalize. Whoa. Those are some fascinating assumptions. Now let me pick up on Esther, do a learning journey. Think for just a moment about the challenge you wrote down in your mind. I'm not going to have you close your eyes because I may be putting you to sleep. In order for me to respond, do I need to think outside in? How will that challenge help others be successful? How will you build on your strengths to strengthen others? How will you use your power to empower others? Think about the personalized part of that challenge. How will I personalize it? What will that mean for an individual? How will I harness uncertainty? To respond to that challenge, what am I certain about? I had an experience about a year and a half ago in COVID. Am I going to continue to teach at the university? Am I going to continue to travel? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? I started to get obsessed with the uncertainty about your son, the uncertainty, I don't know. Finally, I sat down and I said, I don't know what's going to happen. So what do I know? We just had a great discussion this morning, and I think Esther and I share this agenda. Esther, are you committed to learning? Are you committed to learning? Yeah, no matter what. Inflation, deflation, I don't know. I am going to learn. And for me, I'm going to learn that helps others get better. I don't know yours. Find it. And finally, navigate the paradox and tension that exist. Don't look for a solution. I've just given you some assumptions. Now, what does this mean for our field of HR? For those who've been in the field a long time, you'll like this evolution. We started as personnel. Then we became human resources. Personnel is terms and conditions. Human resources, the practices of HR. Then we become today human capital, managing our people in red. Where I think those assumptions lead us is what I'm going to call human capability. Human capability in the yellow column has a couple of dimensions that I'm going to dive into. Outside in. How do I create value in the marketplace? And how do I expand beyond just talent? I believe people matters. It's a great name for a company. But it's not just people. It's the organization and leadership. So, I've done my first piece. Now is the time. I love that message. Now is the time for us to make a difference. Get over the limiting assumptions. So what do I do with that? That's the assumption piece. What do I do with that? What's the practice? I'm going to suggest 3, and I'm going very quickly. I hope you've got an idea. How do I really think differently about my challenge? Number 1, HR is not about HR. It's about creating value for others. So I'm going to give you that's the first piece of that hierarchy. I'm going to give you a test, and everybody's got to hold up their hands. Sir, you've been in HR for 25 years. Stand up. Tell me the average. So everybody's going to vote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and tell me the most common answer. So watch the group. What's the most important thing that we business or HR leaders can give an employee? Psychological safety, number 1. Number 2, and you're going to get the answer. Belief, number 3, become better. Number 4, belonging. 5, all the above. 6, none of the above. 1, 2, 3, vote. Sir, stand up, sir. Stand up. Tell me I don't want your answer. You tell me the answer in the group. 1, 2, 3, vote. Hold up your hands. Turn around. Turn around. How are people voting? What's the answer, sir? It's not that complicated. 5. 5. And you've just demonstrated a limiting assumption. 5 is wrong. What'd you vote? 1. Good guess. Also wrong. The answer is number 6. None of the above. The best thing we can give an employee is a company that succeeds in the marketplace. Unless and until you succeed in the marketplace, there is no workplace. Let me say that again. Unless you succeed in the marketplace, there is no workplace. So the first thing I have to do with this new set of assumptions is look at HR through the lens of my customer, my investor, and my community, outside in. Let me give an example. A year ago in May, I was doing a talk for the top 100 people. Does anyone here work for Amazon? Do we have any Amazon? What, AWS, are you at AWS? Amazon e-commerce, okay. AWS has got brilliant PhDs, not psychologists, physicists, chemists, mathematicians, they do algorithms. I was speaking to the top 100 last May, and I was scared. Has anyone ever been scared giving a talk? Oh, I was scared. I studied English in college. I got a college degree reading novels. You have scientists that do algorithms. So I started and said, how do I get their attention? I said, what do these companies have in common? Digital equipment, technology, Compaq, technology, Eastman Kodak, General Electric today, Toys R Us, Sears, US companies for the most part. And somebody yelled out, they all went broke. And I yelled back, I consulted for every one of them. And there was a half-second delay, and then they thought, oh, this guy must have some degree of confidence. And I said, I took digital from 120,000 employees to 10. Amazon, I'm going to take you right down from 300 to 30. And they said, what are you talking about? And I said, they were all great inside out. They weren't great outside in. They didn't adapt. Toys R Us didn't recognize that Amazon can sell toys over the internet. And Toys R Us lost 200,000 jobs. Our job in HR is to connect what we know and do to the customer, to the investor. What does that mean? Think of your challenge. Now this is the action item. Whatever you had in your head with Esther yesterday and today, is it an administrative practice, more efficient through AI? Is it a functional practice, staffing, training, development? Is it linked to strategy? Behind what you have in your head as the challenge, put the two words, so that. I want to improve leadership. That's the second wave. So that we deliver strategy. So that we succeed in the marketplace. Do my leaders represent the behaviors that we promise our customers? I want to improve the employee experience. That's level 2. So that we deliver our strategy, so that our customers have a better experience. Whatever you have in your head around your challenge, put so that behind it 2 or 3 times until the answer is outside the boundary of your company. That's the lesson. That's the lesson. I want to do diversity so that we deliver strategy, so that we serve investors and customers. That's the message. What we do in human capability builds value for customers, communities, investors. It makes them better. Let me give one example. I could give dozens of examples. Investor. Company in Southeast Asia is the largest company in the country. The founder is now in his 80s. The company is worth about 15 billion US market value. He's in his 80s. He knows he's got to get next generation leadership. Pretty obvious. I'm going to be gone. We got to get next generation. So he builds a leadership training center that is incredible. 400 million US. That's incredible. It's even better than this room. Gold-plated fountains, elegant technology, and he hires a chief learning officer who has a PhD. And he says to her, do a cost benefit. How do I get a return on my 400 million? She called and said, Dave, if we put 500 executives a year through and they improve their performance 5%, it's going to take us 93 years. Well, why did he build it? It's a return on ego. She said, here's a great insight. Don't tell your executive that, because then you'll become a consultant. What do I do? What do I do? I said, try this out for size. Think outside in. What if you improve the market value of this company 4%? 4% of 15 is 600 million. If you could get investors for the same earnings to give you a 4% increase in value, you've got a 50% return on the $400 million. Whoa. I never defined my challenge that way. My challenge is not doing training programs, it's doing training programs so that the investors give us a 4% premium. They're 2 years into it, they've almost got it. That's cool. And look at the actions that leads to. Who designs the program? Investors. Who attends? Investors. Who teaches? Investors. We don't do case studies from other companies. We do our case study. And when you come to that program, you get an increase in the value of what we do. I think that's cool. That's the new HR. Think of your challenge. How will it lead to value with customer, with investor, and community? Our people are our most important asset. How many have heard that one? We all have. What's wrong with it? Our people are our customers' most important asset. If we're not hiring, training, and developing in ways that create value for our customer, we're doing the wrong thing. The assumptions. Those limiting beliefs. Change them. I love that. Change the assumptions. Uncertainty with certainty. Inside out. Personalization. Paradox. Change those assumptions. Number one, don't do HR for HR's sake. Do HR for the business, for stakeholder value. Number two, so what does HR look like? This is the second piece of my evolution. Have you ever been in a meeting where the general manager, she's at the head of the table, finance, marketing, each have a point. Here's what HR comes to the meeting with. Woo! Here's the latest, greatest tool. Have any of you tried any of these that are on the sheet? They scare me. It's like a shiny object, a quick fix. Here comes the latest, greatest HR stuff. And how do people respond? A little cynical. We need taxonomy. And again, I'm worried about time. I could go forever on this. I'll pick it up. Taxonomy says make the complex simple. What's the categorization? There's a paper at the bottom, a general organizational classification that I assume everybody's read. It's what I wrote 30 years ago. Nobody's ever read it. When you go to a restaurant tonight, the menu has a taxonomy. Appetizers, main courses, desserts. When you go to a library, there's a taxonomy in the bookstore, types of books, fiction, nonfiction. When you select a car, in HR, we need a taxonomy. We need to organize what we do in a way that makes our value added simple. And we've got one. The data supports it. In red, we manage our people. Everything to do with talent. People matters. It's our hope for the future. We've got to have the right ingredients. In blue is my fist. We've got to create the right organization. In green is the combination, leadership. And in purple are the HR systems. Everything we do in HR can be linked to one of those four factors. Are we building people, organization, leadership, or HR? And when we look at those, we've identified what's complex to simple. The red is people, diversity, resignation, employee well-being, reskilling. The blue is organization, technology, this conference, agility, hybrid. The green is leadership and the purple is HR. So what was a little bit confusing, here comes the latest initiative, is now organized into 3 buckets. And we've identified 38 practices. And you say, well, what does that mean? So I spent some time going through these 2 days. I've listed all the topics in these 2 days. One reason I love this conference, you are talking about all of these issues. In the last 2 days, you've had a lot on talent. How do we manage our people? And you may not be able to read all that, but you've had a lot of sessions. You've had a lot on organization, designed for the unconventional, decentralized. You've had some on leadership and some on HR. What does that mean? When I look at the challenge I've listed with Esther, which category is it in? Am I also paying attention to the other buckets? When I sit with my business leader, or my investor, or my customer, am I managing talent, organization, leadership, and HR? That's the value of a taxonomy. You're going to say, how do I remember that? I'm going to make it easy. Raise your right hand with your fingers. Right hand, there we go. That's your people. Look at those fingers. If you don't like one of the people, just move it down, but hopefully you like the people. Raise your left hand as a fist. They come together. Put them together. The right hand on the left fist is a signal in China of respect. So that's respect. Here it's this. Now say your forearms represent the HR systems, and then do the dance. Woo! Oh. Let's do the dance once more. Could you stand up? Turn around, do the dance. You are superb. Just let everybody, no, I don't want to see it. You got to show everybody the dance. Go, turn around. You are so good. Oh. Guess what you've now got? You now have a way to talk about HR. HR is not about HR. It's creating value for a customer through three things: talent, organization, leadership, and HR. That's it. Now is the time. Number one, HR creates value. Think outside in. Number two, by doing those three things, you're so good. Talent, organization, leadership, and HR. Finally, number three, what does that mean for me and for us? How do I want these line managers to come into our field? We have studied HR aggressively. We've written a lot of books. Nobody reads. We've discovered there's 10 characteristics of a great HR function. I'm talking about this in the master class, but let me tell you what our research shows. Of these 10 characteristics, the two that matter the most are number 1 and number 10. Number 1, do we have a reputation about creating value in the marketplace? When people look at the HR function, what do they see? Administrative experts, functional experts, strategic partners? No, value-added contributors. When you shift to that identity, that creates value. And number 10, relationships. We love to go to number 4. Let's redesign the HR function. In big companies, do you have centers of expertise? Do you have embedded HR people? In small companies, how do you organize the function? But what matters most is number 10. Let me tell you where I learned that. Who has trouble getting their partner a gift on a holiday? Anybody else struggle with that? Oh, thank you for struggling. What have you given your partner? What's a gift you've given? I didn't hear all of that, but it sounded brilliant. And what's really fun is your partner will still love you. Who defines the gift? You, the giver, or your partner, the receiver? My partner. So I've been married a long time. I want to give my wife a gift. A few years ago, she came and we celebrate Christmas. And she said, I know what I want for Christmas. And I said, oh, that's so good. Tell me. I want to spend a weekend with you in San Francisco. Has anybody been in San Francisco in January? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's not humid like it is here today. It's gorgeous. The Bay Area, the Golden Gate Bridge. I said, oh, that's so good. I'll get you that. She said, there's more. What could be better? It's a, quote, couples retreat. Couples retreat is a code word. Remember, my wife's a psychologist, guided journey. Couples retreat is a code word for we're going to go away for a weekend and you're going to apologize to me. I understood that. What's the name of it? Oh, Dave, you're going to be so pleased. It's called Hold Me Tight. Wow, I can't believe I almost bought it without even knowing you wanted it. We went. The next year, by the way, I got her a couples retreat in Seattle. So she had to apologize for 48 hours. Here's what I learned out of that. Relationships matter. They can predict with 90% accuracy who's going to stay together. Relationships matter. John Gottman, has anybody seen his work as a psychologist, is brilliant. Relationships matter in HR. Are we building relationships with the people we care about? Woo! I said I'd go fast. I hope I lived up to that. Let me tell you my agenda. Look at the challenge that you've laid out with Esther yesterday. Reinvent it. Headline, now is the time. Never have we seen more attention with boards of directors. We're just posting some research that boards are going to start having HR people on them. We're going to see more of that with investors looking at intangible value, with government regulation reporting it. And there's three ways, there's assumptions, limiting beliefs that we have to overcome. Inside out, paradox, personalization, uncertainty. Three things I need to do. One, connect what I do outside in. Link your challenge to a customer or an investor. Number two, build human capability. It's not just people, it's organization and leadership. And number three, upgrade the quality of HR. That's the agenda. That's the agenda. And I always love to ask people, what's the best year of your life? What's the best year of your life? And people say, oh, the year I left home. The year I was married. The year I had a child. My friend told me recently, the year I got divorced. And I think they're all wrong. The purpose of this conference and the purpose of my message to you is that the best year of your life is the next 12 months. The next 12 months. Let's continue to reinvent where we are. With that, I think we're going to do some questions. I am so honored to give our hope to the future of what we can do. And Ashish, I think you're going to join as we talk about forward.
Yes, sure. Okay. Ashish,
You can just use this for a
okay,
minute.
we're good. All right, so we have co-founder and CEO of Fani, Ashish Kumar Jha, who's going to be in conversation with Dave. But before that, can we have a thunderous round of applause? That was absolutely amazing. And Ashish, you've got a task at hand, so over to you.
Which chair do you want?
So I wish our brain had a pause button, because after listening to you, I'm brimming with thoughts, and now I have to pause them to be able to carry on the next conversation. You talked about hope 4 times, and we talked about uncertainty. You were earlier talking about organizational risk. We definitely live in a time where there is a fair bit of uncertainty, whether it is technology-induced, whether it is because of geopolitical reasons, whether it is because of economic reasons. And during the moments of uncertainty, it's absolutely normal to feel that fear. And many a times we don't even realize it, but our decisions are governed by that. Would love to hear a little more, how do we overcome that? How do we not allow fear to lead to indecision? How do we bring more hope when we are thinking?
You know, I love the concept of hope. My wife writes quite a few books at the intersection of religion and psychology. Her newest book is on hope. I read some work by Dr. Marty Seligman. Has anyone heard of Dr. Seligman, Positive Psychology? I encourage you to look him up. He's brilliant. He studied learned helplessness. Why do you feel helpless? Why can you not move forward? His new study is hope, and he's a researcher. There's 3 things. If I were coaching you to have hope, number 1 is efficacy. Efficacy means if I work hard, can I achieve the outcome? If I work hard, can I achieve the outcome? Is there a probability of success? Efficacy gives me hope. Number 2 is optimism. When I look at my world, do I see what's wrong or what's right? Optimism gives me hope. We have optimism. And number 3 is inventiveness. Can I discover new options? Efficacy, optimism, and hope. I think we replace fear with hope when we see efficacy, a pathway to the future, when we see what's good, not what's bad, and finally, when we create new solutions that we didn't have. And all of that wrapped in an ability to communicate well.
That's beautiful. So efficacy, optimism, and being inventive. What about the case when you have tried this and you have failed? How do you still reinforce hope? Because so many times we feel, where is the return on investment in something we did? And that question becomes even more perturbing if we have failed in the past. So how do we still reinforce hope?
I love it. I'm just quoting other people, so I'm just stealing ideas, hopefully adding a little. How many have read Work on Mindset by Carol Dweck? One of the great lines is, I'm not failing, I'm learning. I made my wife, I didn't sew it, but I got a pillow for her that said, I'm not failing, I'm learning. When you fail, see that as an opportunity to learn. I think that logic of failure gives me a hope. Everybody raise your hand, everybody raise your hand, everybody raise your hand. Just, I want to know, raise your hand. How many of us have failed at something? Oh, you all have. We've all failed. How much did you learn from that experience? And it's not that you failed, it's that you learned. I'm not sure why, but I feel like I should share this. There's a story across many faiths, and it's in Hindu and Buddhism, Christianity, Islam. Adam and Eve are in the Garden of Eden, they make a mistake. This is such a foundational story. God comes to visit them, and he says to Adam and Eve, where are you? And for years I thought they were hiding behind a tree. But it hit me, God can see behind a tree. You can't hide behind a bush, you can't hide behind a tree, and God doesn't ask silly questions. So what's the question? Where are you relative to your failure? Are you helpless or hopeful? Are you giving up or are you looking at progress? I think that fundamental question that's the root of so many belief systems is what I love to think about. If I'm not failing, I'm probably not progressing, as long as I learn from that option. So, would you like to share a major failure in your life? No, don't go. I wouldn't ask you to do that. I think you look at that, I would do, Esther, a guided journey. Think about a big failure in your life. At the time, how did you feel? Hopeless, helpless, fearful? What did you learn from that failure that shaped your life today? That's called a growth mindset. Do not be defined by the past failure, but defined by the future opportunity. So I'd love to say to people, have you failed lately? And if they say no, I'm going, don't invest. Yes, of course I'm failing, but I'm learning quickly. I think that's so critical to what we need to do.
Just one more quick question. Okay, we have 2 minutes. So you talked about the concept of organizational risk, because many a times when we have to invest in solving a problem, we are worried about the return on it. And sometimes that leads to deferring that idea, especially when we don't feel the urgency to fix it today. And building capability is definitely not an overnight job. It requires a much longer term investment and persistence. So we see this often that we tend to defer it. We tend to say that let's do it later. What is the cost of not investing? So if there's a cost in investing in it, what is the cost of not doing it? That's also something which we would love to learn, especially under the umbrella of organizational risk.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's immense. I would rather go and do it and make a mistake than defer it for tomorrow. So in fact, even if it is working, we break it and try and rebuild it.
The cost of inaction is greater than the cost of failure. I was in a company, here was their mantra: think big, don't have limiting assumptions, test small, fail fast, and learn always. And the cost of not acting means that we're going to miss the opportunity that changes. Right. Toys R Us missed Amazon. Congratulations to our Amazon friend. Kodak missed imaging. They were selling a 3-foot piece of film, 3-foot piece of plastic, 1 inch wide, for $2 or $3. They said there's no better margin in the world except illegal mafia. They missed it. Fail fast and learn always. I think that's such a good idea, especially around capability. Final quick test. Your fingers represent talent, your fist represents organization. I won't have you do the dance again. Which matters more for business results, talent or organization? Hold up fingers. We got to win the war for talent, or fist, we got to fight through organization. Is it organization or fingers? Hold up your hand. Fingers, talent wins, organization. What do you see around the room? I won't ask you to vote again. What do you see? I see some going leadership. I see some going, it's all about HR. The research is 80-20, organization. You fight a war with people, you win a war with organization. I beg us out of this conference, go create the right organization. Go create and communicate that. I think we're getting flashed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all the time. I think one thing that I'm going to take back today is that when we are thinking about capability, when we are thinking about people, instead of thinking in terms of how much they have improved, we should think more about how does that help our customers, how does that grow our market value, and how does that grow our stakeholder value. I think that's a great message. Thank you so much, Dave, for your time. It was lovely having you here.
Thank you.